Yo, I want to talk about Duskmourn. And actually, no, I don't. It's way too early to be talking about Duskmourn. Bloomburrow's not even out yet. What are we doing? MagicCon Amsterdam happened recently, and this video was posted on the Magic the Gathering's official YouTube page of the preview panel that happened there. They showed off a bunch of stuff, including Duskmourn, but it's not the first time that we've had teasers for the set. Do you see this lineup? See how Duskmourn is at the end there? Well, this screenshot is from a panel at Gen Con way back in August 2023. That's how long Duskmourn has been getting teased for. Right now, I'd expect that the buzz should be around the release of Assassin's Creed. Positive or negative, I'd expect that set to be the focus for our attention because, it's the current one. Maybe we could have a chance to actually buy it and possibly even play with the cards before the people behind the game start trying to move us on to the next product. Bloomburrow isn't even out yet. Why are we talking about Duskmourn? And obviously I know why. Wizards of the Coast don't want you to stop and enjoy what you've got. They don't want you to be satisfied with what you have. They want you unsatisfied, ever hungry for the next product. Because that's how they get your money. They want you to stop thinking and consume. If you stopped, you might not start again as you question the rising costs for less and less contents like in these fucking Beyond boosters. And yeah, I know what some of you are thinking. Well, what about you, Red? Aren't you part of the hype machine? Aren't you doing a video on Duskmourn as we speak? Don't you profit from this system? And to those people I say, my Patreon has a new tier. It's £1, which I think is about $1.50, and that would support me to continue making videos like the one that you're watching now. If you join, your name will be credited on screen at the end of my videos in a text scroll exclusive to the Lunar tier. Your name won't be huge on screen, but it will still be there. The catch for that low cost, however, is that I'm limiting membership to only 1,000 people. So, if you want to see your name in my videos, you want me to be able to continue making those videos, and £1 or $1.50 doesn't break the bank, then come join me on the Moonbase and sign up to my Patreon, link in the description below. Thank you, and then as a more reasonable response I'd go on to say that yeah, I'm part of the hype machine, so are you. That's the nature of hype. If you play this game and engage with the marketing in any way, even just down to talking to your friends about upcoming sets, then you are part of it, just like I am. So why even bring it up in the first place then? Why have I said all of this? Because this is a video on my opinions and expectations from Duskmourn before and after watching this preview panel. And everything I've said in the video thus far is to paint a picture for you. It's to give you an idea of my philosophy and perspective on the game, and my general vibe towards marketing in general. And the reason that that's important to know is because you may be surprised to learn, as I was, that I've flipped on Duskmourn. I went into this preview panel with certain expectations and they done got flipped on me. I didn't expect it and quite frankly I'm impressed. So what am I talking about? Before the preview panel, my expectations for Duskmourn were based on information that had already been teased, and from that I'd say my expectations were positive, but each with their own equally weighed negative. So I'd say my interest in the set was so-so. For instance, I thought the art style looked great. Look at that, that looks sick. But the concept that the art is depicting, the entire plane is a haunted house, how is that possibly going to work? What does that mean? I don't know, I wasn't sold. So my expectations were, the art looks amazing, but the concept of one house being an entire plane sounds kind of dumb, I don't like it. Having said that, they told us that the set was based on modern horror, and if that means that this haunted house plane is basically Magic's equivalent of the Backrooms, which I'd recommend checking out this series by Kane Pixels, link in the description if you don't know what the Backrooms are, then I could see that working in terms of fun things to introduce to Magic's multiverse. A place where planeswalkers and omen pathers get trapped, even if the plane itself in isolation from the rest of Magic is lackluster as a standalone setting. But will it be a cool idea, or will it just be a bunch of shallow movie references and cheap pun-based humour that we've seen so much of lately from sets like Thunder Junction? So this single haunted house plane could work, but WotC's been dropping the ball in terms of lore an awful lot lately. Next, I like horror, I'm a big fan, and even just the name of the plane is very evocative. But we already have a plane that's an exploration of these themes and concepts. What new space is there for Duskmourn to possibly explore that isn't already well tread by Innistrad? And yes, modern horror and gothic horror have differences, but a lot of those are just cosmetic. I'm talking about the actual themes of the set. I worry they're going to be rehashes, or worse, potential new concepts, but ones that spread horror thin as an idea across the game. Innistrad's last visit wasn't that long ago, and we're doing horror again already? Imagine if, in a year from now, we had another cowboy set doing another western. How much left of that genre would there be left to explore? So yeah, big fan of horror, love seeing it represented. However, we already have a plane dedicated to those themes, and other planes that touch upon them like Ulgrotha and New Phyrexia. Couldn't this haunted house be set on one of those locations, probably within Innistrad already? I worry that these planes are going to start feeling less and less unique, or they're each going to be missing some key aspect of the genre just so that the others can claim exclusivity of it, doing every plane a disservice in the process. Now, if we're not talking about the themes, and we are talking about cosmetics, well then, yeah, I love the look of modern horror. You're The Ring, John Carpenter's The Thing, Alien. Sure, you could tell these stories during any time period. Predator proved that concept with Prey. For instance, have the girl from The Ring climb out of a book or a mirror. Have the alien chasing people down on a ship lost at sea. But there is something to be said for the aesthetic. Something about the style. The tactile nature of the world that adds to the atmosphere. But is this something that I want to see in Magic? Universes Beyond is one thing, but we've really been pushing the boundaries lately on what a Magic set can look like. Is modern horror really something that Magic can pull off in their game with a traditional fantasy setting? Won't it feel out of place? So, 80s horror is cool, but I don't think it's for Magic. And lastly, this one is simple. I bet the gameplay is going to be fun. That seems to be one of WotC's biggest focuses lately. Maybe not for every format, but drafts at the very least seem enjoyable for the sets that have it. However, will there be enough breathing room between Duskmourn and Bloomburrow? Will we have enough time in these sets to get immersed in the gameplay experience and the lore? So the set, probably fun. Shame I doubt we're going to get enough time to fully enjoy it. Now, I have more thoughts on the set, things like the price, the composition of play boosters and the availability in non-English speaking countries for instance. And while all of that does affect my interest in hype levels overall, that's more to do with Magic as a whole than it is to do with Duskmourn specifically. When it comes to the set in isolation, these were my thoughts and concerns going into the preview panel, and I'd say I was at about 50% in terms of my interest or hype for the set. So, imagine my surprise when my expectations got flipped. Back to this video, and I'm going to jump around a little bit, but I'll show you the sections that address my concerns as I've laid them out. First, at 18 minutes, we get this. Duskmourn used to be a regular plane, with environments and peoples and all kinds of things. There even used to be happiness. But an evil force took over from inside a mansion there, and it started growing. And now the whole plane is an eternal mansion where you can go room after room. Even if you see an environment that feels like the outside, it's not really the outside. You're going to see a floating window, a doorway, a lamp, wallpaper on the floor, and things that indicate you're never truly out. Okay, so I was worried that the concept of the plane being one large house wouldn't be as cool as the art depicting it. But the idea that this demon was trapped in a house and had to spread outwards? Okay, yeah, I think that's cool actually. But now I'm worried that an idea as good as that isn't going to be given the time or attention it needs to fully do it justice. I moaned about Thunder Junction earlier being full of shallow puns and references in place of world building, and from the narrative, there was a time skip that jumped over what I would have thought would have been the most interesting aspects of the multiverse meeting via omen paths for the first time. And honestly, I think the rushed nature and missed opportunities of Thunder Junction has to be blamed on the fact that we only got to see the plane for a single set. One set doesn't seem enough time to introduce and flesh out a plane without having to resort to shorthand references of cards like Holy Cow, in place of actual world building. Horror only works if the setting is believable. You can't be scared if you're not invested. Is what happened to Thunder Junction going to happen here too? I mean, I guess we'll see. Next of my concerns at 19 minutes in. Watch out for moths. They show up a lot in this set. It's an important symbol for the set. And then, I recommend that everyone keep their eyes peeled. The art has a lot of little details. There's a lot of attention to detail put in every piece, every illustration, leading you on, giving you clues about what's going on, and making you a little scared if you find some stuff. Okay, that sounds cool actually. Then at 31:25, courage comes in all shapes and sizes, and here we see Toby, a very young survivor, who's made it in the house somehow. Oh, so children are unusual here? People don't actually live on the plane then. I guess this demonic takeover is recent, and the few natives left are just the ones yet to be wiped out. And we see that at 40 minutes in, as we're shown this, then at 41 minutes we're shown this, we can see that there's a little bit of narrative actually happening between the cards, which is very cool. I love it when you can take two cards and they'll tell a story just from the artwork. And between showing us these cards, they said, if you're here and you're alive, you're probably very, very strong or very, very lucky. And luck is on short order in Duskmourn. Right, so it's a plane in the sense that it's a location, but basically people don't live here. They're just surviving until they can't anymore. I think that confirms my backrooms theory, and I think all that talk about hidden references in the artwork pointing to something going on, the introduction of natives, who some of which seem to be fleshed out and have some sort of narrative importance, and I hear there's a Planeswalker's Guide to Duskmourn, which I'll read nearer the time, meaning that while I don't know that I'm going to enjoy a story about a dying, unlivable torture world, I cannot deny that they do seem to have put some thought into the lore. However, the inclusion of cards like Unidentified Hovership, Close Encounters on a Magic card, Haunted Screen, Poltergeist on a Magic card, Unsettling Twins, The Shining on a Magic card, and Let's Play a Game, Saw on a Magic card, has me asking, is this good world building? This sort of blatant reference risks breaking my immersion. I mean, okay, at least they're not cards with pun names like a rabbit called The Jump Scare, or spirits on the second floor of a house called The Ghost Story, fucking a gribbly little 1-mana 10/10 called The Power Creep. But again, Cursed Recording, the ring tape on a Magic card, even with a mechanical reference to the number 7, it's not far off, is it? Also, at 2052 they say, this is going to be a new type of card, it's called a room. Uh-oh. As you may know from my video on battle cards, a new card type needs to tie mechanics with whatever flavour it's representing together very neatly, as otherwise they just seem like a confused mess, and that's very tricky to do. As evidenced by this sentence at 22 minutes, I think of all the mechanics, it went through the most changes of any of them because we want to capture what it feels like to move through a house mechanically. This really emphasises that Magic's base gameplay works really well to reflect a wizard duel with flinging spells at each other, but to reflect anything other than that is really hard work. And you risk bending either the rules or the flavour to the breaking point, as I at least felt that we saw with battle cards. And while I'm not opposed to the idea of them exploring new things, I have to ask, at the risk of breaking immersion, who is asking for this exactly? Just because it's a house, do we really need a card to reflect that? Isn't that what the land cards are supposed to do? I don't remember playing Strixhaven and saying to myself, well, this would be good, but I just wish there was a card that made it feel like I was listening to a boring lecture. So overall, yeah, it looks like they've paid more attention to the lore than I was expecting, but I'm concerned about the nature of some of these cards. Next up, I said that I thought that this would be better set on an existing plane like Innistrad, and after having watched this presentation, I no longer think that. The concept of one demon taking over the whole realm and killing every living being inside wouldn't gel on an existing plane. Especially not Innistrad, as it's already had almost that exact thing happen like 3 times already. So I've flipped there. But at 3340, Delirium is one of the mechanics. We will see a good deal of Delirium in the set. Okay, so reusing an Innistrad mechanic on a nightmare creature that could have easily been from that plane. Then at 4632, when talking about the commander decks, first up is an Esper deck led by Aminatou, who has this awesome unique power suite, and I hope we do it justice in this enchantment deck that also features the Miracle mechanic. Alright, unique huh? With a second mechanic reused from Innistrad, okay. And then this is a weird one, but at 4956, when talking about some upcoming dates, we have 13 Days of Duskmourn. I mean, 13 is the Innistrad number. Triskaidekaphobia, Triskaidekaphile. We've done that. References to 13 are all over Innistrad. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying that other planes can't share mechanics. Innistrad famously reused Flashback. But when there's this much conceptual overlap and rehashing of ideas and themes, I don't know man, if Duskmourn and Innistrad are both doing the same thing conceptually, thematically and mechanically, then what's special about either of them? Next was my worry that Magic can't pull off a modern horror. At 2305 we get this. In Duskmourn you will see what appears to be static, TV static, lost signal, but in Duskmourn it's a gateway to the spirit world. This is where ghosts come from, this is where spirits come from, this is where you might be sucked into and never seen again. Okay, I can get on board with that. They've done a good job. Look at Screaming Nemesis here. It's not TV static, that's just what ghosts look like on Duskmourn. What a wonderful way of paying homage to the source material without making it feel out of place in a fantasy setting. I'd actually say they did a similar thing with Kamigawa Neon Dynasty's introduction to cyberpunk elements, and even the technology of Kaladesh. It's not what comes to mind when you think traditional fantasy, but it's got a Magic the Gathering coat of paint over it which seems to make it fit in. However, my concern... this just seems to be a chainsaw, no changes at all. This guy, the clothing, the goggles, the flashlight in his hand, I get young Ghostbusters vibes from him. I get a similar vibe from this card too, seemingly called Ghost Vacuum. Cool, wasn't that also something that we saw in Innistrad? Obviously, the set's not out yet, but I hope the same level of care and explanation that they took with the TV static ghosts is used on everything else here as well. Because otherwise, the set's going to feel like a Universes Beyond product, not a real Magic set. And finally, my fear that Duskmourn and Bloomburrow will be too close together with no breathing room. They actually addressed that in the preview panel with a video skit starting at 5044, lampshading the juxtaposition of Bloomburrow next to Duskmourn, which tells me that WotC are at least aware of the differences in the set and the closeness of their releases. So okay, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on this one, and assume that they've maybe planned for this in some way. Maybe they want a Barbenheimer moment. Maybe the sets draft really well together or something. But here's the concern, it's also way too early to tell, and maybe they haven't. So all in all, even though I've flipped on basically all of my preconceptions going into the preview panel, for every new positive, there's a new negative. I'd still say I'm only at about 50% in terms of my interest or hype. It's just that the individual percentages that make up that number have changed, which is such a weird feeling. It's like, yeah, I've flipped, but I'm also still in exactly the same place. So that's my thoughts on Duskmourn. Let me know what you guys think in the description below. Are you excited? Did all of these previews do anything to change your feelings on the set? Should this have just been on Innistrad or Growther? And are you put off by the modern aesthetic like the TV screens and the flashlights? Let me know in the comments below. I'm going to end this video now with my version of the jump scare. You ready? There she is. She says hello. Thank you very much for watching this video, and thank you to everyone that supports me, like James Diamond, Eggboy the particle that permeates all existence, and the rest of my patrons whose names are on screen now. I'd also like to thank the sponsor for the video, me and my Patreon page, where you can get your name credited on screen too. Check it out in the link in the description below. Hit the like button, leave a comment, install an ad block, and more importantly, subscribe and share this video with a friend. Hit the notification bell. Apparently now you also need to set it to all, and also tell YouTube that you want notifications, goddamn. And if you agree or disagree with any of my points, or you want to see me do a video on another subject, let me know and I will see you next time.